Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man's Court channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reading another chapter out of They Saw Sasquatch book by Wendy, Swanson. I know I just read a chapter out of here, but I wanted to go ahead and read another one just so I can get a little bit forward in this book so I don't have to read it no more. We're getting close to that point. But anyway, the encounter I'll be reading out of here today took place in July of 2000 at Tucker Flat Campground. So let's get into it, shall we? My encounter with what I still believe to be a Sasquatch happened almost 16 years ago. One of my friends had won a permit to raft the wild and scenic portion of the Rogue River. So he and three other experienced rafters were making plans to raft from Grave Creek to Aloud, a trip of about 40 miles. Knowing I didn't like to raft, they asked me if I would be willing to meet them at several points along the way to refresh their supplies and drive them back to the Grave Creek boat ramp when they were done. I really agreed, thinking it would give me plenty of time to do some hiking and camping. When we met at the boat ramp to begin our separate trips, it was agreed that I would meet them at Tucker Flat Campground in 2 days, as they wanted to stop and spend the first night at Winkle Bar, the site of the author Zane Grey's old cabin. After helping my buddies get their supplies loaded in their raft, I waved goodbye, jumped in my truck, and headed for Tucker Flat. As you know, the Muriel Road is not the easiest route to travel on. I soon realized I had a flat tire. I stopped to put my spare on, and it took me quite some time as I had difficulty removing the lug nuts. It was late afternoon when I pulled into the campground so I could quickly pitch my tent and set about making some dinner. I noticed there were two other tents already set up in the campground, but their occupants were nowhere to be seen. After dinner, I packed all my foodstuffs into the bear-proof locket that's in the bed of my truck. This area is known for its large bear population. Oh yeah, you not only got to worry about cougars and other wild animals eating your food, you got to worry about bears because they can smell it real good and they don't mind trashing up your belongings just to get food. So I always take this precaution. It was about 9 o'clock when I decided to turn in. I got settled in my tent with a lantern and a great book. It has no bearing on the story, but consciously it was Rogue River Feud by Zane Grey. And here's a picture of the area that he was going to go rafting with some of his fellow friends. I read for a couple hours and I had just turned out my light when the ruckus started. It began with the sound of heavy footsteps, and at first I assumed it was people just coming back to their tents. Suddenly I heard something breathing right outside of my tent, and when I took a peek out the screen and with a full moon out, I saw what looked like a extremely large bear standing up on its hind legs, and whatever it was began to growl and moan. Then it started pulling at my tent and dragging it away with me still inside. I kept absolutely still and silent. After several minutes, it moved off, and then I heard it thrashing around the area where the other tents were. I quietly got out of my tent and, in a crouching run, got over to my pickup and climbed in. After I was safely inside, I started it up and turned my headlights on, which, when were shining in the same direction the noises were still coming from. This beast was huge, and it certainly wasn't a bear. It stopped destroying the other tents and looked towards me. It bared its teeth and started walking toward me. I threw the gear shift in reverse and backed out of my campsite as quickly as I dared. Yeah, that would be the best move, because if a Bigfoot is angry and starting to tear up a campsite and you were still in the tent, wait for it to move away, get out of there, get in your vehicle, and just drive. don't just sit there and look at it, because it'll come to the vehicle and probably try to break the door. Once I reached the road, the beast was still in my headlights. It just stood there for a second and then turned back toward the woods. I quickly drove over to the burial lodge and spent the night in my truck in their parking lot, as they were full up for the night. The next morning, I was able to make arrangements to stay at the lodge for the next night and made arrangements for my rafters to stay when they arrived the next day. When my friends arrived, I did not say a word about what had happened and simply told them I wanted to treat them to a comfortable night's lodging before they go back on the river. Except for meeting my friends down at the river, I did not leave the lodge. Man, I wouldn't blame you, because you never know that Bigfoot will be standing around in that area again waiting for you to show back up and your friends. And plus, they wouldn't believe you if you told them that you probably saw a Bigfoot. But here's another photo of a riverbed area that they were supposed to be traveling on. After an uneventful night, the rafters got back in the water, planning to spend the night at Camp Tacoma, and then the next day they would land at the Aloud Campground. I headed to Grants Pass to find myself a new tent, and then headed for Agnes over Bear Camp Road. I spent the night at the Singing Springs Resort. I was now uneasy about camping alone. The next morning, I arrived at the Aloud Campground in time to set up everyone's tents, and I was comforted by the fact that the campground was almost full. When my friends arrived just after noon, I was more than happy to let them tell me all about their trip. They had a great time. To this day, I have not shared my story with anyone, nor have I returned to Tucker Flat Campground or the Muriel Lodge. The creature, which I know was a Sasquatch, stood at least 7 feet tall and had very dark reddish-brown hair. I think its eyes were an amber color, but my light may have distorted that. James Moore, Grants Pass, Oregon. Well, James, what you just described right there, 7 feet tall, that's a huge monster. I'm glad that he got out of there quick enough before Bigfoot decided to stop his truck. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of Tin Man's Quarter Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day.